So I would like to thank Mr. Cardinal for all the support and persistence to ensure the community receives what they have asked for and deserve. And one of his architects, Mr. Marco Agliana, whom I worked closely with on this file. He's dedicated himself to this project and surely deserves more than a pat on the back. Miigwech, Marco. Now there's a little bit more that I want to talk about. The title of the meeting said urbanism, so I want to talk a little bit about that. So I'd like to share a vision by elders across the country from the East Coast to the West Coast, the North, and to the Great Lakes, for all Algonquian-speaking people, all the Anishinaabe. This shared vision was transmitted to the late William Commanda, who traveled to all the areas and met elders who had all the same vision. So when people think that this is William's vision, well, he was just the most recognized elder who was able to bring this and transmit what he received from the other elders, and has shared it to other reputable people in the city. One of the persons he met in his travels was Mr. Douglas Cardinal, who in his travel does much of the same activities in meeting people of all walks of life. William, who was the Sacred Wampum Belt holder, who also received the Order of Canada, along with Mr. Cardinal, were commissioned by the NCC to propose First Nations presence in the Sacred Islands. First in '85 with conservative Jean Piggott, and again in '98 with Liberal Marcel Beaudry. The NCC was to submit the plan to Cabinet for approval. The vision of the Sacred Island site of Arctojuan, Chaudière Falls, Chaudière, Albert, and Victoria Island was approved by all the Algonquins on both sides of the river, Quebec and Ontario, in 2001 and 2002. Mr. Cardinal worked immediately with William Commanda to bring to life the shared vision of elders of the Sacred Island. The fully inclusive site contains a sustainable economic plan creating a central park, historic interpretive sites, a conference center, office and activity center, and a cultural Aboriginal center. The core objective is to reawaken and share Indigenous philosophy to advance the healing of Canada and humanity. The vision represents the healing of a medicine wheel in its four clearly defined interconnected parts. Number one, which is at the bottom right to your screen, in the east representing the rising sun, and the direction calls for a spiritual and cultural center. Number two, which is next to that, a little bit to the left, in the south, representing midday, the direction calls for an administrative and business center, the native-owned and run complex to host the nation's capital with a convention, meeting center, hotel, office space, etc. In the west, which is a little further to the left again, calls for the reforestation of Chaudière Island in the creation of a central park in the heart of Ottawa, much like Stanley Park in Vancouver and Central Park in New York. I think that would be important for the city. In the night, representing the night, the snow white hair, the direction calls for freeing of the Sacred Falls to its original grandeur, removing the dam and allowing the great kettle Elstiku to be brought back to the nation's capital. This will show the world that Canada is caring of its ecology and working towards restoring water species back to their natural habitats. This can be a tough one, but not impossible. The big dam era is over with alternative sources of energy. Dams recently removed or in the process of being removed are Condit Dam, White Salmon River in Washington, Elwha and Lions Canyon Dams, Elwha River in Washington, Vesey and Great Works Dams in Maine, and the Killock Cow Creek Dam, Custer County, California. These are all much bigger dams. This being said, I think the knowledge and experience is out there. Once again, I tip my hat, my yellow hat, to those professionals that can make dreams come true. More information on this vision, or you can contact Mr. Douglas Cardinal, the master architect, to my left over there. The future belongs to those who believe in the beauty of their dream. Happy Aboriginal Day. Kichi Miigwech Kikina. Thank you, everybody. Merci.